Hidden among the redwood forests, oak savannas, and winding rivers of Northern California, once thrived a secretive spiritual tradition that few Americans today even know existed. The Kuksu Cult, a complex and deeply symbolic ceremonial system practiced by various native Californian tribes, most notably the Pomo, Maidu, Patwin, and Miwok, represented a unique expression of indigenous mysticism, cultural order, and cosmology. At its heart lay the figure of the spirit dancer, a masked initiate whose performance symbolized the connection between the human and the supernatural realms. With their elaborate regalia, secret knowledge, and sacred narratives passed through generations, these spirit dancers served as both cultural custodians and religious intermediaries. Though nearly erased by colonization and Christian missionary efforts, the echoes of the Kuksu cult remain in oral traditions, ethnographic accounts, and the collective memory of California's native communities. This is the story of a forgotten mystery cult, one that once shaped the spiritual lives of entire peoples and now lies at the edge of obscurity. To understand the significance of the Kuksu cult, one must first place it within the broader cultural landscape of indigenous California before European contact. California was home to one of the densest clusters of Native American cultures in North America, with more than 100 distinct tribes speaking over 70 languages. These groups were highly diverse, yet many shared a deep respect for the land, cyclical time, and the spiritual worlds that coexisted with the physical one. For the Pomo, Maidu, and other Central Californian peoples, life was seen not merely as a sequence of natural events, but as a sacred performance governed by invisible spiritual forces. The Kuksu cult developed as a structured religious institution designed to harmonize community life with these forces. It was not a religion in the Western sense, with rigid dogma or codified scripture. Rather, it was a spiritual society, part performance, part priesthood, and part fraternal order. Only initiated males could enter the inner sanctum of its rituals, learn its myths, and don its sacred costumes. Women and uninitiated members of the tribe were allowed to witness certain public performances, but the inner workings of the cult, the teachings, meanings, and ceremonial preparations, remained strictly hidden. This created an aura of mystery around the cult, casting it in the role of a mystery religion, not unlike the Eleusinian rites of ancient Greece or the Mithraic traditions of Rome. The name Kuksu refers both to a central deity and to the masked performers who embodied spiritual beings during ceremonies. The figure of Kuksu himself was believed to be a powerful spirit, a world creator, healer, and bringer of order. He was often associated with the sky and with the renewal of life. During ritual dances, initiated men would paint their bodies, don elaborate feathered and fringed regalia, and wear tall conical headdresses and masks that concealed their identity. As spirit dancers, they would stomp in rhythmic circles within dance houses, semi-subterranean ceremonial structures reserved for sacred gatherings. These dances were not merely theatrical, but were deeply sacred acts meant to ensure the well-being of the tribe, summon rain, heal the sick, and maintain the balance between the human and supernatural worlds. Each tribe had variations on the Kuksu tradition. Among the Maidu, for instance, the cult was particularly well organized, with an elaborate calendar of ceremonies that included the morning ceremony, puberty rites, and first salmon festivals. The Pomo, meanwhile, integrated Kuksu ceremonies into their broader belief system, which included a dualistic cosmology involving good and evil deities, the sacredness of nature, and the transformative power of dreams. A defining feature across these versions was the presence of secrecy. Ceremonial knowledge was transmitted orally, often through a grueling process of initiation involving isolation, ritual instruction, fasting, and symbolic death and rebirth experiences. To the initiated, the sacred stories explained not only the origins of the world, but also the proper way to live, hunt, marry, and die. To outsiders, the masked dancers remained enigmatic, their true identities hidden beneath feathers and paint, their purpose known only through carefully guarded allegory. The social function of the Kuksu cult was as important as its religious role. Through its rites, it instilled discipline, loyalty, and cohesion within the community. Elders oversaw the training of new initiates, ensuring that each generation understood the laws of the spirit world. The cult provided a hierarchy that balanced communal egalitarianism with sacred authority. It also played a central role in mediating conflict, organizing major feasts, and maintaining moral norms. When a boy reached puberty, he would undergo initiation into the cult, symbolizing his passage into manhood. He would fast, undergo painful body modifications such as nose piercing or skin scraping, and be introduced to the cult's songs, symbols, and sacred places. These trials were not merely tests of endurance, but spiritual transformations, turning the child into a vessel for ancestral and cosmic knowledge. Anthropologists such as Samuel Barrett and Alfred Kroeber, writing in the early 20th century, documented what they could of the Kuksu cult based on interviews with elders and participants. But by this time, the cult had already begun to erode under the pressures of colonization. The arrival of Spanish missionaries, American settlers, and later state authorities brought with them devastating epidemics, forced conversions, land seizures, and cultural suppression. The dance houses were burned or abandoned, the regalia hidden or destroyed, and entire generations severed from their spiritual heritage. The very secrecy that had once protected the cult now contributed to its decline. Since so little was written down and transmission was strictly oral, much was lost when elders passed away or were unable to initiate new members. Nevertheless, some elements of the Kuksu cult survived. Among certain families, sacred songs and ceremonial dances continued in secret, practiced away from prying eyes. Others adapted by incorporating Christian elements into traditional ceremonies, creating hybrid spiritual practices that honored both the old ways and the new faith imposed upon them. In the late 20th and early 21st centuries, a resurgence of cultural pride among California's native communities has led to renewed interest in traditional practices. While the Kuksu cult as a formal institution may no longer function in its original form, its spirit lives on in ceremonial dances performed at powwows, in community storytelling, and in efforts to reclaim sacred lands and restore traditional governance. From an anthropological perspective, the Kuksu cult offers a fascinating case study in how indigenous spirituality can operate as both a theological system and a social institution. It challenges common assumptions about Native American religions being simplistic or animistic. Instead, the Kuksu cult demonstrates the existence of complex ritual orders, moral philosophies, and cosmological narratives comparable to those of ancient Eurasian mystery religions. Like the Orphic rites or the Eleusinian mysteries, the Kuksu tradition emphasized personal transformation, community harmony, and the preservation of sacred knowledge through selective initiation. The story of the Kuksu cult also raises profound questions about cultural memory, historical erasure, and the resilience of indigenous traditions. What happens when a spiritual tradition is forcibly interrupted? Can a mystery religion survive without its secret society? The Kuksu cult reminds us that spiritual knowledge is not only contained in texts or temples, but also in the living bodies of its practitioners, in the way they dance, speak, and remember. In a time when much of indigenous history has been overshadowed by narratives of conquest and colonization, the rediscovery of the Kuksu cult offers a counter-narrative, one of depth, mystery, and enduring sacredness. For modern audiences, the phrase mystery cult may evoke images of ancient druids, Greek initiates, or even secret societies like the Freemasons. Yet here in North America, Among the redwood groves and grassy meadows of California, there once existed a comparable tradition, an esoteric system of belief centered around masked spirit dancers, sacred stories, and the delicate balance between seen and unseen worlds. The Kuksu Cult was not merely a set of rituals, but a way of life, a sacred contract between people and the cosmos, between the living and the ancestral spirits. To forget it is to forget a vital part of America's spiritual history. As California continues to grapple with its colonial past and seek reconciliation with its native peoples, there is renewed hope that the legacy of the Kuksu Cult will not remain forgotten. Through language revitalization projects, community-run museums, tribal archives, and intergenerational storytelling, the spirit of Kuksu may yet dance again, not just in ceremony, but in the hearts of those who remember. In the end, the spirit dancers of California were not just performers or priests. They were stewards of a sacred mystery, guardians of a worldview where every tree, river, and animal shimmered with divine presence. In remembering them, we open ourselves to a deeper understanding of the land we now call home and the spirits that still walk upon it.